Celia.
The president has said that this tax bill is going to cost him a fortune. It's actually not the case. How does he figure this is going to cost him a lot of money?
Look, we expect that it likely will, certainly on the personal side, could cost the president a lot of money. Again, the president's focus hasn't necessarily been at all on himself, but it's been on those four principles that we laid out. Number one, and priority number one, being that it helps the American middle class. We know that this bill does that, and that's one of the biggest reasons that the president has supported it, been engaged, and will look forward to signing it hopefully in the coming days.
So he seems to benefit from pass-through deductions, top rate tax reduction, estate tax exemption is doubled. He's going to make money on that.
Look, again, this is a tax plan that we hope benefits all Americans. Primarily, and priority number one is middle class Americans. That has been this administration's focus. We feel like that is certainly addressed and been prioritized in this legislation, and we're going to be very excited to sign it hopefully in the coming days. Matthew?
Thanks a lot, Sarah. You ticked off a number of accomplishments that you see the president has made in this first year in office. Why are his approval ratings mired in the mid to upper 30s despite those accomplishments?
I think oftentimes because while the president and this administration has been very focused on how we can better help the American people, I think oftentimes the media is focused on other things, certainly not talking about the growing economy, certainly not talking about the crushing of ISIS, not talking about the creation of jobs. If you look at the amount of time that is spent on negative coverage of this president, 90% of the coverage is negative about this president when, as you just said, I listed off a number of things that have been pretty historic in nature in this first year. And if people were focused a lot more on those things in the media, I think that his numbers would be a lot higher. We anticipate that they're going to go up as more and more of these things continue to happen, and particularly as more and more people start to feel the impact of the booming economy, the tax cuts that will take place later tonight and go into effect in the first part of February. I think those are all things that are going to help boom our numbers.
Taxes, but because of the top you mentioned, forgotten men and women, I wanted to ask about Puerto Rico. It's been more than 3 months since the hurricane hit. Would the president still give himself right now a 10 out of 10 for the federal government's response?
Look, the federal government has continued to be engaged. In fact, the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Secretary of HUD are in Puerto Rico today, further engaging in this process, continuing to be partners with the leadership on the ground in Puerto Rico at the state and local level. We've given every time we could from the federal level, and we're going to continue working with them until they're fully restored.
The president feels he's doing everything he can. Still a 10.
We still firmly believe, and I believe you can refer back to the comments that the governor has made previously, that every time they've asked, the federal government has delivered. We want to continue to be partners with them with this and make sure that we rebuild, and that's what we're doing. And that's why the president has sent 2 members of his cabinet directly to deal with that and be on the ground in Puerto Rico to further assess and see what other necessary actions we have that we can take.
This situation, Sarah, you're getting a lot of questions about what will benefit the president, what won't benefit the president. I get that he doesn't want to release his taxes. That would obviously put all of these questions to rest. So can you just elucidate why for 2016 the president can release his taxes? Why won't he do that and put all of these questions away, back up what you're saying, prove that what you're saying is correct? That's the way to do it.
As we've said many times before, the president's taxes are still under audit. And until that is completed, then we wouldn't move forward on putting his taxes out.
I'm asking the why part of it, Sarah, and I don't mean to belabor it, but I understand that the president wants to wait until after the audit.
I don't think
I'm
it's
asking
that complicated.
why.
As long as they're under audit, he's not going to release his taxes. His taxes are under audit, so he's not going to release those taxes. John?
These questions direct, he doesn't worry about that.
I think we've addressed this a number of times. I'm not sure why answering it another time will make the answer any different. John?
Sarah, the new national security strategy specifically calls out Russia for using subversive tactics to interfere with the affairs of other countries. Why didn't the president use that kind of aggressive language in his speech yesterday?
Look, the president has weighed in on Russia and his feelings on that a number of times. The policy and the strategy put forth in that very detailed paper was that of the president, and it reflects his views. And, you know, he's didn't read every single page of it word for word. I'm sure you're all thankful for that, because we certainly could have. Maybe I should do that for the next briefing. But look, the president's been clear what his position is. We've been tough on Russia. We've put sanctions on Russia. We've imported energy and impacted them in a big way. The president has not been soft in this process. He chose to focus on different things in the speech, but those things were included in the national security strategy because they're important and they're part of the administration's viewpoint. Major?
To follow up on a couple of questions, were you saying that this particular judicial nominee who's withdrawn after this viral video of his inept performance at the confirmation hearing didn't properly go through your preparation and vetting process?
No, I didn't say that. I said that we have been focused on pushing forward good candidates. We've put forward over 60 nominees. We've had 3 individuals that have had to withdraw. That individual was one of them. And we are focused on making sure we fill that position with somebody that would...
Based on your process, you thought he was prepared?
We, again, are looking always for the best and brightest. And when we felt like that wasn't necessarily the right person for that position, he has withdrawn his nomination. We haven't continued to go forward. That is pretty standard in most administrations. In fact, every administration prior to us has had to withdraw nominees. We've had to withdraw 3 out of 60. Look, I think a lot of people are focused on just those 3 and not at the overwhelming number. The president has had his nominees confirmed at a historic pace on that effort, and many of them with bipartisan support, including the 12 members of the Circuit Court and the Supreme Court Justice.
That's a serious question. You don't disagree with what she said about the personal benefits that will accrue to the president based on provisions in the tax cut bill?
I said that we expect...
They will benefit him personally.
Look, I said that in some ways, particularly on the personal side, the president will likely take a big hit. But on the business side, he could benefit. But the biggest focus for this White House has been to make sure all Americans are better off today after this tax package passes than they were beforehand. We really focused on invigorating the middle class and making sure they got more of their hard-earned money, and we think that that'll happen in this package. No.
Sarah, you said the focus is on the middle class. Why was one of the last provisions put in lowering the top bracket, and did the president support that? And why did he, if he did not support it, why did he not insist that that not be added at the end?
Look, some of the back and forth, we respected the process. A lot of that took place in the House and Senate. We've been engaged in that process, but we laid out what our 4 priorities were. We wanted to make sure those happened. That was our focus in the process, and we felt like those priorities were met.
Does that help the middle class to lower the rate for the bracket for the top individual earners?
Some economists think that it does, and I'd be happy to refer you to some of them that it would give you a very deep dive and get into a very wonky conversation on it. A lot of people think that that does impact and can help the middle class, and be happy to set you up with those folks later. Peter?
Sarah, what do you say to the millions of Americans who could and likely will end up paying more because the individual mandate is repealed in this tax plan?
We've maintained all along that we think that that is the right step. Look, most Americans want to keep more of their money. This plan does this. Most Americans want to get rid of the special interest loopholes that benefit the rich. This plan does this. They want to simplify the tax code to make it easier for them to file their taxes. This does this. And when you look at the actual elements of the bill in front of the American people, they overwhelmingly support it. By even a lot of Democrats' support has picked up when you look at the elements in the bill.
To be clear, though, on the individual mandate specifically, you will acknowledge that many Americans will end up paying more as a result of it being repealed, correct?
Look, we've said all along that our healthcare system is broken. It has to be fixed. It's not sustainable. This is one step in that process. We're going to continue moving forward and looking at the best ways to improve our healthcare system, and we anticipate that being a big part of our focus next year.
To be clear, so for the time being, they'll have to swallow paying more until that resolution comes.
I don't think that's necessarily the case, and we, again, are committed to fixing the system as a whole and not just looking at one element of it, and this is certainly a big step in the right direction and something that has to happen because the system that we're in right now is simply unsustainable. Last question, Jim.
Yeah, the president did say that this tax cut bill would cost him a fortune. That was false, right?
No, because on the personal side, this actually could impact the president in a large way.
And how would balance out corporate versus personal if he's going to come out
I'm
ahead?
not sure if he's done a side-by-side, but I know that there are a number of provisions that would negatively impact the president personally, and so we contend that those comments are still very consistent. However, like I've said, our focus has been on the middle class, and that is what we think is delivered in this tax package, and we very much look forward to seeing it passed later today and signed at a
bill
date
is-
soon, and we'll be
Yeah.
sure to keep you guys posted on that. Thanks
So
so much, guys.
unpopular.
Yeah.